Welcome to the Future Connect IT Career Chat. We're doing a series of interviews with people from around the area who work in a range of different industries. Today's session might be particularly interesting for you if you're studying IT or business. My name is Deirdre and I'm the Executive Officer of Future Connect. Future Connect works to support the education, training and employment pathways of young people who live in Brimbank and Melton. Today I'm lucky to be joined by Scott Radburn. Scott, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, as Deirdre said, I'm Scott. I work for one of the major financial industries service providers in Australia. Specifically, my role title is Value Stream Lead, but what that actually means is I'm one of the executives at the bank working on digital transformation that we're undertaking, specifically very heavily cloud and technology focused, if some people on the call know what that means.
Okay, so can you tell us about your career journey and how you got to the job that you're doing now?
Absolutely. So I studied computer science at university. Look, that wasn't my passion or my dream, and I kind of fell into that as I progressed through secondary school, or high school as you call it here. I was in the UK where I went to school. My passion really was history and geography, but then as I got through school, I found I had a real talent with ICT, or IT as we called it back then. So I pursued a study path in computer science. Interestingly, when I left uni, I fell into a role that wasn't 100% technical, but I found that having that background in technology really helped kind of come into the career and the marketplace with a different perspective. I think in having that journey through IT, I was able to understand a lot better this really large gulf that exists in the workplace between what we call business and technology. People speak different languages, and business people struggle to talk about technology, and technology people really struggle to talk about business. So having that hybrid background for me personally on my journey really helped come into the marketplace, the job place, and kind of hit the ground running and being able to talk both languages and be that bridge across the gulf almost. So a highly technical background in my studies, partnered in with a role that was still technical in nature, but a bit more businessy.
Mm. So what sort of skills do you think that you need to do your sort of role?
So in the role I'm in now, it's a lot of people skills, honestly. So we do a lot of hands-on technical work, but like I say, there is a large gulf. And when you're working in a technical team doing technology work, a lot of it is, we call it keeping the lights on. So you've got to keep all the IT systems running. If we don't, and you can imagine working in a bank, like I mentioned, things go horribly wrong. People can't make payments. I can't pay my staff anymore. I can't settle my business accounts. It has tangible impacts to customers when things go wrong at the bank. So being able to kind of understand what the business needs, why the thing runs the way it does, why it works the way it does, so that if it breaks or we need to keep it running, we actually understand what that means. It's really important to be able to be that communicator and that translation point. But you really do also need to be able to get into the weeds of detail. So you need to play up high and talk about general things, but then really get into the specifics around, well, this particular box server fell over, this particular IT process cracked itself, and we need to get that back up as fast as possible. So it really does require quite a varied skill set. I would suggest being analytical really helped me. So that analytical mindset, being able to look at something quite logically, because really when you talk about technology, it couldn't be any more logical. It works the way it's told to work, and it doesn't really go outside those bounds. So you have a logical analytical process that you can step through, and you can generally figure out a problem. Obviously that gets really complex sometimes, so being comfortable in complexity is also a good thing to have in your toolbox as well.
So you've talked about a range of different skills that you have and different things that you do. What does your work day actually look like?
Well, it's a good question, Deirdre. I mean, I think just reflecting before I answer that one specifically, IT is a really broad field these days. So the skill set that you have can almost meet any particular field in IT. You could be in more of a kind of role that's working with a lot of data scientist kind of role that would require a very different skill set to if you were what we would call a service manager, which is kind of like the guy or girl, I should say, who keeps the kind of all the systems well oiled and keeps everything running, but is working with a lot of different people to get that going. So you really can have a range of skills. My specific day in the role I'm in, so it's more of a management role, so it's a lot of meetings. a lot of meetings all the time, all day, but it wasn't always that way. I think that's just the career path I've been on, has transitioned that way. Before that, it was a lot of hands-on, fingers on keyboard, smashing out code. And it's just kind of the way the roles transitioned. I'd say that if you're very good at that lower level coding, you generally progress into managing people who are doing that coding, because you can be the kind of subject matter expert that sits across the top. And then naturally, as is the case with me, transitioning into just more senior roles where I do less coding and a lot more meetings talking about it instead of doing it.
Yes. So what's the best thing, do you think, about working in IT?
So, wow, that's a really great question. So I absolutely love the field. I would not change a single thing. I've definitely made the right career choice for my journey in terms of getting into IT. I think that what is becoming the case as things have changed and as we move into, this decade, is that IT is still a kind of field of study, but you'll find when you get into the workplace, it's less well defined these days, because IT is becoming almost in the fabric of everything. Every job requires some level of technical knowledge. So what is great about the field is that the doors and opportunities that are open to you these days with this background is vast. And there really isn't, it's not like it used to be back in the 70s, which is before I got involved, by the way. But, these group of real super nerds huddling around massive clunky server. It's just not like that anymore. You could be in any field, in any industry. It has a place everywhere these days. There's no field now that doesn't need an IT team or some technical skill set somewhere. So I think the versatility of the field is probably what's the best thing about it.
Yeah. And it's really interesting when you were saying about that versatility, because I think even with COVID, it's forced a lot of us in a range of different businesses to have to adopt different software and different ways of doing things. Like we're meeting via Zoom at the moment. So I think that has made that skill around IT a more valuable but everyday kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
So how
do you and even as you mentioned, we're meeting on Zoom. Zoom wasn't really the company it was 6 months ago. It's absolutely exploded as a kind of offering, but it's not revolutionary in what it provides. It just does it in a really smart, accessible way. And that's the beauty, I think, of technology, is that it encourages kind of people questioning the way we do things and kind of challenging, hey, we could do this much better, which, Zoom's a great example of taking advantage of it. Skype was around, as was other things that were enabling video chat, but it just wasn't accessible to the masses, and it didn't provide the level of service we've all become accustomed to now with Zoom. I had it's a complete tangent. I had a team catch up where we all decided to play Jackbox party games. If you've not heard of it, look it up. It's really fun. Yeah. I think Deirdre, you played it before.
Yeah.
Zoom, we're all connected, we're all screen sharing. I was able to share my computer audio through it. It was a way for us all to engage around the same game that's designed for us all to be playing on different devices. But technology supported us to connect in a really kind of different and innovative way that we normally would have had to be in the same room for. And we had a lot of fun.
So how do you see things evolving in your industry? In 5 years' time, what do you think things will look like?
So that's a really awesome question that I'm really excited and passionate about. So I mentioned that I'm working in the digital transformation part of a particular bank in Australia. I won't go into who. 5 years from now in this industry is really what we're leaning into. So it's all about the Internet of Things, which is a buzzword, but basically means every device you have is connected and interconnected and talking to each other. Everything's mobile, everything's on the go. So how do we change the way we think about banking to be what the customer's used to? People don't want to rock up to a branch anymore, as an example. People don't want to call centers anymore, as an example. People want to get on their phone and do everything they need to do localized. And I think that I'm working in a particular field, which is financial services, where that's concerned, Deirdre, but you can apply that to almost all interactions. People are now accustomed to expecting to be able to do something on their phone. It'd be a seamless experience that's not very painful, particularly not having to engage with a human being directly, and then the thing happens. So that might be banking, that might be shopping, that could be a whole range of things. Now, Centrelink and things like the way we interact in terms of our taxes, all online. So technology is going to become more and more seamless, but at the same time, a lot more, I think, enabling us all to be much more self-service.
Mm.
With that comes heaps of risks, right? And the way we have to think about it. And I think that's the challenge for the cohort of people who are studying IT now is how do you face into those challenges and risks? So as a great example, I'm becoming not more comfortable, but my data as me as a person is now everywhere. So in the industry changing, my privacy is very different to the way it used to be. And what people know about me is concerning when you think about what we're moving towards. So I think there's a lot of challenges in the industry and where we're moving towards, but on the whole, it's exciting. And if I was getting into this field of study now, it would be a world apart from what I studied back in, the early 2000s. But it's a really great place to be. And I just can't imagine ICT or IT being an industry that shrinks or declines anytime soon. It's definitely a growth area.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Scott.